It's going. Wait a minute. Wait. Hit it again.
All right, we will call this meeting to order at 6:38 p.m. This is the special working budget meeting. At this time, we'd like to welcome everyone and stand for a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Yeah. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Still learning to use 2 feet instead of 1. All right, review the agenda and adoption of the agenda.
We can't change the agenda, right?
No, you can just take off, you can't add anything.
I make motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Motion by Ms. Hall, second by Mr. Bennett. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 4-0. All right, public comments. You're back there, we got any public comments?
I don't see any.
All right, do you
Thank
want to
you.
comment?
Yeah, do you want to go?
All right, finance update, Miss Alicia Ellis. Consider approval to update policy 03.125 and 03.225, second reading.
So we presented the first reading of both of these policies in July, and then I was out in August, so we're bringing them back for the second reading. This is where we updated the language for the meal per diem that the state had changed, and we were updating it to be in line with that. So we just need a second reading to make the policy final.
Any questions for Ms. Ellis? Not, would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Bennett,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Dorsey. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 4-0. Consider approval of the fiscal year 2025 working budget.
All right, so we have been discussing budget since, let's see, every board meeting. It is a continuation from the draft budget we did in January to the tentative budget in May, and now this is our final step of what we call the working budget that we turn into the state in September. So kind of a synopsis of the changes since we talked in May about the tentative budget. Overall, we have added $5.2 million to our revenue in the general fund since the tentative budget level. And a lot of this is due to, we just sold a bond to buy buses, so $2.5 million of that was the bond that we sold. We adopted the tax rate for this year, and legislation made multiple changes to the SEEK formula. So the results of those two things have added another about 1.2 million to the budget between raising, having our 4% revenue tax increase available to us, and then SEEK. We also got some very good news yesterday. They dropped our tentative SEEK level. They do that in 3 cycles as well as a forecast, tentative, and final. And when that came out, it was finalized, which was still kind of up in the air, question with legislation how Tier 1 funding was going to work, and we were projecting at 15%, which is what it has been for many, many years. But they did raise Tier 1 instruction up to 17.5%, so that is the bulk of our increase. They are recognizing that with inflation, it is costing more to educate our children, so they are funding us a larger percentage in that Tier 1. We also saw an increase in our exceptional children numbers, and so with those weighted factors as well, we received an increase in our special education numbers to help educate those children as well. So all of that is based on increased enrollment, inflation, and legislation trying to help us help all schools, not just Clark County. It's just that's their way of helping give state dollars to assist with inflation. A few other areas that I just did miscellaneous. We have started the preschool payment program. interest and bus trips, just kind of looking at those categories from even May to now and what we've collected the first quarter. I adjusted those budgets a little bit. That resulted in about $300,000. And then also due to the SEEK change in formulas and our enrollment and all of that, and the 2 nickels that we have, we have capital funds up, and at the moment, the way our debt service stands, we've got an extra $1.4 million that we will not be spending on debt service this year. So this is money that we can bring over to the general fund to have less restrictions on it. That's a capital funds request that we can do, so I'll be bringing that to you all later in the year. And basically, we have debt for buses and other construction things like our energy bond that we sold, and we redid some of our buildings. We can use that capital funds on those bonding items. So we're gonna move that over to general fund and help pay for those items. Excuse me. On the expenditure side, we increased, it is red and in parentheses as negative, but to me, that's taking away, so we increased the expenditure budgeter. I can't talk tonight, you guys, my goodness. Expenditure budget by 2.9 million. And what this is every year, whatever purchase orders we do not get paid out by June 30th, we roll those over because they're still outstanding debts that we have to pay for orders we've already placed, and that was 1.1 million. And then we also did some pretty, I think some pretty great things with our salary tables, that we did it in relation at the time of May with the tentative budget to pass our salary schedule so we could post for hiring, but that was not in the tentative budget that we submitted. So those adjustments, the salary changes to the rank table that we made was a 1.1 million change. And then we did a 1% change to our classified tables. We increased those hourly rates. And then when you add benefits and all the other things that we have approved, that you all have so graciously approved for our staff, it ends up in a 1.5 million increase in our salaries for this year. And then we have just a few adjustments where we've had conversations with different departments that resulted in about $273,000 of just miscellaneous. One of those is actually the Promethean boards. That was a good chunk of that budget that we increased. That was something that had been brought to you all, but that's a good chunk that got added to the budget from May to September. It was a little over 200,000. So we didn't have a whole lot of adjustments in budgets, in all honesty. The biggest portion was those Promethean boards.
And then the increasement in revenue, so the adjustments are actually positive.
Yes, yeah, so we actually have put money back in contingency. You'll see that on a slide when we talk about contingency. Any questions about any of the changes that we've made?
I just want to say a comment about the Prometheus, is it Prometheus, like or whatever
I know I
boards,
probably
the
didn't say that right.
electronic, Promethean, okay. The positives I've heard from like the Concrete teachers, I've heard so much praise for that it's made their teaching day so much better. So
Good.
that made me feel good to know that we did that, because it's a big chunk of money, but obviously it's helping because we want to start at the base. That's going to only help as you get older.
Right.
I think someone in GRC too.
Yes,
Was-
Justice, Concrete, and GRC.
Okay,
all
yeah.
got boards this
So the teachers I heard from were at Concrete, but yeah. So I just wanted to say that expense is well worth it. So that's
You
all.
like your board, Ms. Lou?
I love it.
There you go. All right. That's one of the in-house witness right there.
Good.
Yeah,
Yes,
bell
thank
to bell, really, I'm using it.
That's awesome. That's really great. So this is kind of a summary of our working budgets for the last 5 years with our current one in there. And we've always done kind of a better worse comparison because we always are very conservative in budgeting. And you can see we have been better every year. That's what the better means than what so actuals have come in better than the working budget scenario. So the way our revenues and everything fall out, it looks like, because we're comparing revenues for this year only to expenditures for this year only. So we're not talking about rollover money or contingency or any of that kind of stuff. So when you look at that, it does kind of look like we have overextended ourselves at 109%. However, you all have made a choice to set aside restricted dollars of $2.3 million that we've got that rotation schedule. Okay, so those are in the expenditures, making our expenditures look higher. then the revenues we're bringing in is part of that. Also, I just talked to you about how we rolled over purchase order encumbrances. That's in that budget, and those are all one-time expenditures that make this year's expenditures look higher than the actual revenues we're bringing in for the year. But in all reality, if you back those items off, we're at 97%. So we have a balanced budget, okay? So that's really good news. So you always want to, the only things that you're really, really concerned about are all those continuing expenditures, which is mainly payroll. We want to always make sure we never overextend ourselves with things that are going to be continuing. So that's why we like to kind of back those numbers out of the one-time things so you can see what that looks like. The next slide is the actual numbers for the last 4 years compared to the working budget this year. And you can see, again, we've been better every year. Last year we did spend into our contingency, but that was intentional. We did a lot with our monies. We're doing a lot of construction projects right now. We've raised salaries. We've bought the boards that we just talked about. I mean, we went through a very long list of things in August of the items that we have spent money on. So that's partly why as we dipped into contingency to pay for a lot of those things. Any questions? So as we were just talking about contingency, I'm very pleased with this number because I like to personally stay around 10%. So we're at 12.5% right now with our revenue increases that we have done. And this factors in food service as well, so we make them part of the budget. They're seeing an increase in their budget and revenues and everything as well. So Clark County is in good standing right now. We're meeting the minimum 2% required by statute. It is recommended by KDE to have 5, even though the statute is 2. And then OEA and accounting standards is really that 10% mark. So we're where we need to be with that, kind of what a lot of people call the rainy day fund. If something big happens, we've got some money in that fund to be able to take care of that. So that is general fund in a very quick synopsis. Any questions on anything? Okay. Fund 2 is our grants. So I've done a comparison of what we had at the tentative level to what we now have at our working budget level. We have had the majority of grants that we will be using for the year have been established at this point. We do have grants we're writing for constantly, looking for opportunities to help fund the initiatives that we have going on in the district from grant-related activities. So we are always adding grants to the books, actually. So right now we're sitting at $7.5 million in grants between your local, state, and federal grants.
The school-based mental health, is that from the state? Is that a state?
Yes.
Like, is that a new grant that we've got?
No, are you talking about
The school-based mental health.
the 14 MWIM?
Yeah, uh-huh.
They have actually been giving that to us for the last 4 years.
Okay, okay.
Yep. So I guess this would be year 5 for it, actually. So that is, yes, a state-funded grant.
It's a lot. There's so much work that people may not realize how much work goes in, and it's not like this money just appears. You have to actually write. You have
Yes.
to write a grant, the reason you're getting it, and all that. So
There are several grants that we would call non-competitive that the state divvies out to all districts based on enrollment numbers and such. Then there's competitive level grants, which are ones you have to write for. So there's different levels, and then we have a lot of local grants that we have written for as well. But even the ones that we don't specifically write for and compete to get, like we have very stringent reporting requirements that go along with all of them. State, federal, all of it.
very appreciative of all the finance people that work on that.
So Fund 22 is our district activity, and these are items that are considered operational in nature, but we take collect fees or field trips or something of that nature. Monies are collected in some way at the school level, but they have to be brought up to the district level because they're operational. Parking fees is an example, car tags, those type of things. Fund 25 is our school activity fund, so anything related to students stays at the school level. All of this is reported to you on the monthly financial statements that you get. We are now everything in our Munis software system, so you're seeing all of these numbers every month. And nothing in this is budgeted until money is actually collected. So we don't really put a budget together for this scenario for these two accounts because we have to collect the money first before we will provide a budget to spend. Fund 360 is our construction. So we have no new projects in FY25 that we're in right now. Both of the projects that we are working on started in FY24. So a budget only appears in the year that a project starts. We started Phoenix and preschool this past year. We're still in full swing making those operations, getting really close to being done on both projects. We're so excited. But this is also a lot of where the monies exist in the area of when you go to the LPC meeting that we're starting and we're working on the district facility plan. Like this is where the next couple of slides that we talk about when we talk about construction and capital and all that, that's really what the LPC is governing. That's what they're making decisions on, is how to spend those dollars that are restricted specifically for facilities. They cannot be used for anything else. I mean, they are restricted, locked down, only to be used on those items. This is where our bonding capacity, when we talk about our debt and bonding capacity and all that, that's kind of all wrapped up into these accounts we're talking about right now. 400 is our debt service. So when we sell those bonds for facilities, this is where we record them and take care of them and pay for them. So also within this is our capital outlay and our building fund. So that comes off the top. We collect those monies. Again, what I just stated, they are specifically for our buildings and nothing else. We take debt service off the top. And then that's where we talked about in general fund, we have that 1.4 million this year left over to be able to bring to general fund. So once you've paid your debts and taken care of any capital needs that you have, there is an availability of what we call a capital funds request to then, on certain items, they still have to be restricted to certain things that you move the monies to your general fund to pay for. So bonding, maintenance projects like our parking lots and that type of stuff when we do. Summer project list comes out of this type of stuff. So that is what that is. Any questions? Okay.
Right there.
I try to make it as self-explanatory as possible in my slides for you all. So food service, this is her scenario of the last 5 years of her working budget. You can see she has trended up and she's starting to trend a little bit. Her beginning balance went down, but her revenues, you can see, are actually up. Her expenditures are up. Food service is its own entity. They run like a business, but they also have they're federally funded. I mean, they have some state dollars, but the bulk of their program is a federally funded program. And they are not allowed to make money on the children. I mean, that is not an allowable thing. So this beginning balance, they are very watchful of that at the state level and want to make sure that it is being spent on the food service, school nutrition items. So they have to do a spend down plan and take care of that. So that's why you see her beginning balance up and down a lot, is they have to put this plan together to spend on stuff. She's actually replaced a lot of cafeteria equipment, the serving lines and some ovens and freezers. She's done a lot of equipment replacement. So she's taking care of the needs of the district in that area with her budget. And then her actuals, and again, you can see budgeting wise, she's been actual spent better than budget every year as well. So they are self-sufficient. We have not had to cover them from general fund because they do stay within their revenue sources, their expenditures. So that is the budget in a nutshell. I would recommend you approve it so we can submit it to the state, please.
Any questions for Ms. Ellis?
I will say for the food service, as much as food costs have went up, that they must be budgeting very close to stay where they need to stay. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, she is. We are constantly talking to one another about expenditures and different things, and she has sought a lot of grants as well. I think she, has come and told you some of the grants with the fresh fruits and vegetables, and
Yes.
so she's doing a lot grant-wise as well to help fund her program because of expenditures. So.
Another thing I think they've done a really good job of is bringing our kids to do some taste testing and really trying to bring variety into the menu so that everyone's not running necessarily to just the pizza day. We got chicken junk days, you know, they had a hot brown the other day at RDC.
Oh, my
It was
goodness.
delicious.
Oh.
Seriously
I take it you were
delicious.
there.
I like visiting our cafeterias. I want to make sure the quality is good, right? So I go
Yes.
and eat with the kids.
Yeah.
But anyhow, just a big shout out to them because they're just like really their own business too. They even have their separate account. And if they don't do their job, it takes away money from what we do for kids, and they've done a fantastic job.
Awesome.
Would anybody like to make a motion to approve the 2025 working budget?
I'll make a motion to approve the budget, 2024, 2025, or 2025 working budget.
Motion by Ms. Hall,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Dorsey. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you for the
Thank you.
presentation and explanation. So,
And before we adjourn, and I won't hold this long, I do want to give Ms. Ellis and her entire department a big shout out. From coming out of the pandemic, going into the pandemic, they have done a tremendous job, and in my 2 to 3 years, worked very hard to put us in a really solid place financially, but we couldn't do that without her and her folks. So officially, I just want to give you a whole bunch of maybe hearts and credit, all right? Go Carson.
Thank you. Yeah, worked very hard for the district.
Thank you, Alicia. All right, with that being said, I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Bennett,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Hall. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. We are adjourned at 6:59 PM.